Jiang Aijin, in your opinion, is it possible that the bone is the bone of the Bai people? Zhou asked calmly. Bai people? Jiang Aijin shook his head. There was a rumor in the palace that the bones of the Bays can help one to overcome the limits of one's life. If that were the case, what's the point of fishing up the bones in the river over the past 10 years? Nobody had succeeded in discovering the alleged treasure after salvaging the bones of the Bai people from the riverbed for a decade. Hence, the objective of this operation might have shifted to something else besides the bones of the Bai sometime during the 10 years. Old Senior, I've said what I have to say. I'll be honest and admit I do have a vested interest in this. It's fine if you don't grant me the nice sword, Jiang Aijin said. Zhou shook his head and said, I told you I despise petty men who don't keep their words. Since I promised you a sword, I'll definitely fulfill my promise. After he finished speaking, Zhou raised his hand and waved it around slowly. A black item appeared and floated toward Jiang Aijin. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the black item. They could not help but wonder what treasure the pavilion master of Evil Sky Pavilion had given Jiang Aijin. The black item fell into Jiang Aijin's hands. It looked nothing like a sword. It was more like a small parcel. However, Jiang Aijin's eyes widened in surprise as he exclaimed excitedly, An imperial token? That's right. The nice sword I'm giving you is this imperial token. Zhou said calmly. The imperial token is a nice sword. The others were baffled by this. Jiang Aijin scratched his head and said, If you give this to someone in the palace, it'll be extremely useful to you. Old Senior, isn't it a waste for you to give it to me? I'm a craven man. I don't have the courage to order people around. Zhou stroked his beard and said, This item is, indeed, an imperial token. However, it's also the key to the imperial warehouse. Otherwise, why do you think the imperial family searches for it far and wide? Jiang Aijin was surprised by Zhou's words. He was not the only one. None of the others knew there would be another use for the imperial token. In that case, are you trying to harm me? Old Senior, I'll get into trouble just by having this valuable item in my possession. If the people in the palace find out that I'm in possession of this, won't they come hunting for me? Jiang Aijin said, You're the most suitable person to keep this item. You're a prince, and you're a person who loves swords. You're the only one who can get close to the warehouse as well. Don't be in a hurry to turn this down. What I'm trying to tell you is that a nice sword is kept inside the warehouse. The sword's name is Dragon Song, Zhou said. A sword? The Dragon Song. Jiang Aijin's voice trembled slightly. It seemed as though he had a difficult time believing this. While Wu Dao said, shocked, Dragon Song is a heaven-grade weapon that's renowned throughout the world hundreds of years ago. Its sharpness is unrivaled. Many in the cultivation world have been looking for it before it disappeared. I didn't expect it to be in the palace. Little Yuaner asked curiously, Elder Hua, is this sword that great? Hua Wudao replied, Of course. It's considered a godly weapon, even among heaven-grade weapons. A heaven-grade weapon would usually need to acknowledge an owner to unleash its full potential. Dragon Song is different. The owner of the weapon has never been found. None of its former users were acknowledged as its owner. Everyone appeared shocked. In other words, Dragon Song had never once unleashed its full power. You're saying that it's possible that this weapon is even higher than heaven-grade weapons? Little Yuaner asked skeptically. There has never been a weapon that's higher than heaven-grade. I can only say it's superior to ordinary heaven-grade weapons, Hua Wudao said. Little Yuaner could not contain herself when she heard this. She quickly turned to Zhou and said, Master, you can't give him this weapon. It's too good for him. Jiang Aijin hastily stuffed the imperial token into his pocket. He said shamelessly, No. I like this very much. Old Senior, don't worry. I'll work even harder than before. I am very satisfied with this item. This trip is truly worthwhile. He waved his hand and made his way to the entrance as he continued to say, Everyone, I have something to tend to, so I'll take my leave first. Goodbye. Little girl, please stop glaring at me. Jiang Aijin, Zhou said calmly, There's no need to see me off, Old Senior. I know the way back. Zhang Aijin kept his hand on the imperial token as he walked backward. He was worried little Yuaner would come running after him. Pass on a message for me. Zhang Aijin stopped in his tracks and asked, What message? Old senior, Wei Zhuyen is the main culprit of the battle at Measure Heaven River. I hope that he surrenders and admits his guilt, Lu Zhou said coldly. His words plunged the great hall into silence. If a needle were to fall on the ground now, everyone would have been able to hear it loud and clear. Oh, old senior, you're joking, right? Wei Zhuyen is in command of a huge army, and he's an important officer of the nation. Demanding that he admits his guilt might cause an upheaval. Zhang Aijin said, Moreover, he has a profound cultivation base. Rumor has it that his strength is comparable to Fan Shouwen, the leader of the Black Knights. He also has many henchmen in the palace. I think it's easier to ascend to the heavens than to make him admit his crimes. Lu Zhou rested his hands on his back as he said, Once a man has risen to a certain position, he won't admit his guilt even if he has done wrong. I understand this sentiment. However, just because I understand it, it doesn't mean I like it. Zhang Aijin asked, Aren't you afraid of offending the second prince? Won't it be disadvantageous for the Golden Court Mountain to have so many enemies? I know the Evil Sky Pavilion possesses shocking strength, but the lands under the heavens belong to the Empire. It's impossible for the imperial family to not have its own tactics to have maintained stability in the cultivation world throughout the years. Lu Zhou shook his head and said, You're wrong. Huh. Wei Zhuyen will die sooner or later. It's just a matter of choosing how he dies. Lu Zhou said coldly. Zhang Aijin stroked his chin and considered it for a moment. I'll send a messenger. Lu Zhou nodded and said, Escort our guest. Understood. Zhang Aijin said, Before I leave, I'd like to know, how did you see through my act, old senior? I don't think my knack of obtaining information is enough to give me away. Lu Zhou waved his hand indifferently. He did not deign to reply to Zhang Aijin. He merely motioned for the derived Moon Palace's female cultivator to send the guest away. Zhang Aijin did not persist when he saw Lu Zhou ignoring his question. He only shook his head helplessly before he turned to leave. I think you've been in the palace before this, old senior. Otherwise, you won't have the imperial token in your possession. He laughed. Forget it. It's not important. Farewell. Ming-Sher-In bowed and said, Master, although this man is unruly and doesn't resemble a prince, I think he's a talented person. Should we retain him? There's no need for that. There are other uses for this man, Lu Zhou said calmly. Hua Wudao bowed and said, Pavilion Master, I have something to say, but I wonder if I should say it all. Hua Wudao. Lu Zhou's tone was stern. Be mindful of your place. There's a limit to my patience. Hua Wudao immediately lowered his voice. He nodded respectfully and said nothing else. Ming-Sher-In said with a smile, Elder Hua, you're no longer a member of the Yun sect. You're an elder of the Evil Sky Pavilion now. There are many who would love to be in your shoes. If you regret this decision, you're welcome to leave at any time. However, you should think carefully before choosing your friends and enemies. Duanmu Sheng raised his overlord spear and brought it down on the floor heavily. Clang! The newly laid greenstone floor was ruined by a new pit. Death to the deserters. Lu Zhou looked at Hua Wudao indifferently. If it were not for Hua Wudao's 5% loyalty, he would have struck him for speaking in Ding Fanqiu's favor earlier. Hua Wudao seemed to have realized that there was a problem with his attitude as well. He said, I've been rude. When Lu Zhou saw Hua Wudao's stiff expression, he said, Although your 6-compatible seal is powerful, it's not perfect. Hua Wudao, who was a cultivation maniac, was immediately invigorated when he heard this. He cupped his fist and said, Please guide me, Pavilion Master. How many leaves does your avatar have? I've made no progress over the past 20 years. It's still at the 6-leaf stage. Ming-Sher-In and Duanmu Sheng were shocked. It was no wonder they were incapable of breaching Hua Wudao's defenses even after taking turns to attack him against an expert of such a rank. Even if he did not use his 6-compatible seal and merely use his protective energy, they would not have been able to break his defenses. There are tomes about the 6-compatible seal and six-leaf avatars here. You may peruse them at your leisure. Elder Hua. Lu Zhou stroked his beard. Hua Wudao beamed. He said respectfully, "Thank you, Pavilion Master." The general public was of the opinion that the Evil Sky Pavilion hoarded many treasures, tomes, and weapons. Every cultivator dreamed about gaining access to these things. When the barrier was broken back then, the Righteous Sect and Clarity Sect had been searching the mountain for these treasures. How could he not feel excited being given access to these things? The Great Hall was quiet again. A derived Moon Palace's female cultivator walked over slowly, curtsied, and said, "Pavilion Master, the Palace Master." "There are no Palace Masters here." Duanmu Sheng rebuked the female cultivator immediately. These female cultivators had regarded Yi Qianxin as their leader ever since they joined the Evil Sky Pavilion, and Duanmu Sheng had wanted to teach them a lesson since a long time ago. The female cultivator was shocked. She nodded and said, "Why, Yi Qianxin requests an audience." "What's the matter?" Lu Zhou asked coldly. "Yi Qianxin is unconscious. I'm afraid that she won't make it." Lu Zhou waved his arm. He did not even look at the female cultivator when he walked out of the great hall with his hands on his back. Little Yuan, Mingshi Yin, and Duanmu Sheng followed closely behind him. A short while later, Lu Zhou arrived at the South Pavilion. Some female cultivators were already waiting for him at the South Pavilion's entrance. When they saw Lu Zhou, they fell to their knees. "Greetings, Pavilion Master." Lu Zhou ignored them, directly making his way to where Yi Tianxian was being held. He waved his arms, and a wave of energy pushed the door open. At this moment, Yi Qianxin lay on the bed. Her face was ghastly pale. Her skin and hair were completely white. The two female cultivators in the room kneeled before they retreated. Yi Qianxin looked up with great difficulty. When she saw her master, she hastily tried to get up but ended up falling off the bed instead. "And Master," Lu Zhou's expression was indifferent as he said, "have you heard? I know that I've committed a grave and unforgivable sin," Yi Tianxian said before breaking into a fit of violent coughing and spat out a mouthful of blood. A female cultivator immediately went forward to support her. "This disciple has one request." When Yi Qianxin saw Lu Zhou remaining silent, she mustered up her courage and continued to speak. "I would like to kill Wei Zhuyan with my own hands to avenge the Fish Dragon village. After that, I shall atone for my sins with my life." When Lu Zhou heard this, he stroked his beard. He said without any inflection in his tone, "Your cultivation base has been disabled. How are you going to kill Wei Zhuyan?" Yi Qianxin's expression soured. In her current condition, she might not even be able to defeat a mortal, let alone Wei Zhuyan, who had a profound cultivation base. If the derived Moon Palace's female cultivators did not take such good care of her, her condition would be even worse. "Yi Qianxin," Lu Zhou said apathetically, "you betrayed your master, denounced your patriarch, defected from the Evil Sky Pavilion, committed crimes, and ruined my reputation. What do you have to say for yourself?" Mingshi Yin scratched his head at these words. "Master, what reputation are you talking about? After all, Yi Qianxin was not the only one ruining the Evil Sky Pavilion's reputation in the outside world. All these years, the Nether Sect, Darknet, and even Old Eight's Tiger Ridge Gang had blamed all their actions on the Evil Sky Pavilion." Yi Qianxin said respectfully, "I have nothing to say." "In that case, I'll grant you death." "Huh." Lu Zhou suddenly raised his hand and hit Yi Qianxin. The sudden development caught everyone off guard. A surge of gentle energy hit Yi Qianxin. If she still had her cultivation base, this energy wave would not have hurt her. However, she had no cultivation base at the moment. This hit could be fatal to her. Bang! "Master, don't." Little Yuan, Mingshi Yin, and Duanmu Sheng did not expect their master to suddenly lash out as well. They were greatly shocked. All of them cried out to plead for mercy, but it was too late. Yi Qianxin was sent flying from the energy's impact. She dropped to the floor with a thud.